If you were watching our program last Friday, you would have seen an incredible rescue live on air. A woman pulled from beneath the rubble of a building that in one of the cities that Trent was just mentioning there, Adıyaman in Turkey. And it was Briar Stewart live reporting from the scene, the dramatic story as it all unfolded in real time.
Here she comes down here. Again, just an incredible moment. This happened Monday. She's been in that building for days, freezing cold. She could hear rescuers obviously trying to get to her, and now she has been freed, the latest survivor of this earthquake. Really just a miraculous thing to see.
Briar, as she and I spoke live, and we saw the woman carried by our cameras into the ambulance on Friday morning. But you know Briar. You know she's not going to just let that story go. In fact, she caught up with her in hospital. We know her name, Briar. We know her story. Ozlem Ayna, tell us about her, how she is. Just tell us what happened in hospital, Briar.
Well, Heather, she's doing very well, and it was an absolute joy to talk to her and her mother because they were just so joyous and grateful, grateful for the rescuers. And in terms of Ozlem, she's staying on a ward with about 22 other earthquake survivors. She has bruising. Her right hand is quite bruised because she was actually trapped under a wardrobe for all of those days. She has some scratches, but really the only issue she has right now is kidney damage, and that's because she was without water for more than 5 days. She was dehydrated when she was pulled out, so the doctors and nurses in the hospital want to keep an eye on her for the next week, but they say she really is doing quite remarkable. Now, one of the first things we wanted to ask her was just about that moment, the moment that rescuers pulled her out of the rubble. Take a listen to what she had to say.
İnanılmazdı. Yani elini tutmamı söyledi. Hani kurtaracağız seni, buradayız. Ya öyle bir eline sıkmışım ki artık yani tamam hocam sakin olun kurtar. Ya çok değişikti, yeniden doğmuş gibi oldum.
And that whole notion, I mean, she talked about how she felt she was being reborn again when she was pulled out of the rubble. That's something that she and her mother mentioned a number of times. But, well, they were obviously, you know, overjoyed at the fact that she has survived and is going to be able to make a full recovery. She said she can't be completely happy because she knows how many people have died. And in fact, in her apartment building alone, she says she's learned that 80%, Heather, 80% of the residents there have died. So it really just goes to show you kind of what a miraculous survival story she has.
80% have died. Listen, Briar, I don't know how many people spoke to me over the weekend to say they were watching with tears running down their cheeks as you were bringing us that live coverage. It was such an emotional moment, and I dare say they're going to be overjoyed as well to find out how well she is doing as you visited Ozlem Ayna in hospital. What does she remember about the earthquake itself when it hit 1 week ago, Briar?
Well, she remembers everything. I mean, she was in her bedroom at the time, as so many people were, because it was the middle of the night. And she said her building collapsed almost right away. So by the time she opened her eyes, she said things were falling around her. A wardrobe fell on her, and that's really what pinned her down throughout all of those days. And she was surrounded by rubble. She said a column from the building fell, so she couldn't really move. And what was just so hard to hear is that she said she kept calling out for help because she could hear rescuers, she could hear a dog, and she said they didn't hear her at first. It took hours, in fact days, for the rescuers to realize that she was there. She talked about lying there, freezing, being so thirsty that she kept saying to herself, when I get out of here, I'm going to set up water fountains for everybody so nobody has to be thirsty again. I mean, these were the things that were going through her mind. And she did talk about that moment when she was pulled out of the rubble, and she was just really so grateful for the Turkish rescuers and also the Canadian team from Burnaby that was here with their equipment, helping the Turkish teams. She wanted to say thank you to them. And I have to say, as we were leaving the hospital, her mother gave us all like such great big hugs that you would have thought we had been responsible for pulling her out. And I think that really just shows you how grateful they are that she is alive, considering you have just so many stories where people have been buried and so many deaths mounting here in this country.
Against the greatest odds. What a wonderful story and what a wonderful moment to revisit it. Thank you you so much, Briar. Briar's in Diyarbakir in Turkey with that live coverage for us today.